Thank you, Stanley.
My first question to you would be, what does politics mean to you as an individual?
The art of the possible.
Of the impossible or
The
of
art
the
of the
possible?
possible.
The art of the possible. How do you make the possible happen?
Well, they say, I didn't say so, that in politics, everything is possible. That you can reconstruct and deconstruct any issue politically. And if you are vast, knowledgeable, and intelligent, you would convince your listener and viewer that you are right.
So you've been trained as an engineer, and one would have expected that you would go on and practice as a professional for the greater part of your life. At what point did you decide that politics would be the way to go? And
well, in the first place, Stanley, I want to say that my chosen career was to join the military and participate in keeping Nigeria one. And that was in 1967 when I was really in Form 2.
that's fascinating. 67, this was about the same year that the Civil War broke out.
Yes, I went to Zaria Depot, they sent me out. I wasn't convinced, went to Ibadan for recruitment. And the military officer, very observant, called me as a young man, why do I want to join the military? I don't want to give the answer now. But asked me, what do? I said, I'm in a secondary school, Government College, Maiduguri, Form 2. He said, go and pack your luggage and go back to school. We are not prepared to recruit you. Maybe if I had been in the military, I would have been a field marshal now, because I believe in the courage of my ancestors and fathers. And 3 in our traditional history died in the battlefront. So that is why you see that I call a spade, irrespective of whose ox is God.
So
And that is what I want to remain to be and die for, even if I don't have money or even if I don't have food to eat.
What was
I will
it?
stand by what is right and
What
what is
was
just.
what was the inspiration? Because to join the military, especially at this very fluid time
That
of
time.
Nigeria's history,
That time,
where lots of people who were in the military were getting killed, there was this the mixture of politics and the Nigerian army. It was a very chaotic time in our history. So what would make a young lad now decide that this very dangerous profession was the way to go?
In fact, during that time, when you join the military, the tendency is that your parents will gather all relatives and cry day in, day out, because it is like they have forsaken you to go and die. But that is not our culture. I'm Bade by tribe. We are warriors. The Kanuris and the Fulanis never fought war because there is a buffer zone in between them called the Bade tribe. None of them had the power and the capacity to defeat the Bade people and attack the other side. This is why the Kanuris didn't fight the Fulanis. So,
And this is the tradition you came
of course, and this is what my children will live to carry from where I stop.
from. Unfortunately, you didn't make it into the army.
So
How did you feel when you were told that for this or other reasons you had to change
I gave up.
ultimately what would become your
Gave
destiny?
up, went back to school and excelled in the classroom, and eventually went to the university and graduated, and had a very, very successful starting career in River State where I was in the Ministry of Works under Chief A.T. Bade as Permanent Secretary and Chief Suza Okpofabri as the Commissioner for Education. Later on, they established a unit when Zamani Lekot was the military governor, and during Murtala's time, and they gave us a lump sum amount of about $500 million to manage and build the schools in the old River State, I would say that I was instrumental to putting the first block of the River State College of Arts and Science, Port Harcourt, which is now the River State College University of Science and Technology. That is to my credit.
That was your first job?
Of course, in the old River State, with one European man called the Chief John Wright, an Oyobo man who was the chairman of the school's building committee, and I was the secretary and project engineer of that committee. I left there to come to Maiduguri and become Maiduguri area engineer, looking after all engineering projects, mechanical, electrical, civil, building, outside Maiduguri. Then later I was made the Maiduguri town engineer. I started the first dual carriageway in a city in northern Nigeria.
Where was
I had that credit. 1978-9. By 1980, I resigned and joined the National Party of Nigeria because we worked very hard. In 1978, it was the only seat that was won by MPN democratically in the old Borno state. Yobe and Borno was in my constituency, and I was responsible. I became the NPN National Youth Leader. I was the National Financial Secretary of the NRC, National Republican Convention. Of course, a founding member of the ANPP, and later, me and Alhaji Suley Ahama formed what is called the CPC. That is why, Stanley, I wanted to erase the erroneous position that a lot of people held, that General Buhari formed the CPC. No, he didn't. He joined the CPC. We formed the CPC.
Tell me the story of the CPC according to you, because a lot of people firmly believe that President Buhari, then General Buhari, as he was known then, was the inspiration behind the founding of the CPC. But you started with the APC.
He may be the inspiration, but he didn't form the party. It took us 6 months to convince him to join.
What was happening?
And those that are now clouding around him and think they are Buhari people were the very people that were discouraging him not to join the new formed political party.
Okay.
But we know
where, just so that we get the story in perspective, at what point did you meet then General Buhari, and how did your close association begin?
Well, I first knew him as the military governor of the old northeastern state, later the military governor of Borno State, but more so when he became the president, when he overthrew our government under MPN and became
in 1983, 31st of
and
December,
became the head of state. That was how I came in close contact when I was one of the few people that ever challenged that military government on his state visit, 5 days state visit to Maiduguri. Because I was on record to be interviewed by the NTA. Let them bring the archives. And I accused that government then of lying to Nigerians, that they closed the border and that nothing goes in, goes out. And I said, no. They only closed the border to benefit themselves. And I said that let the military send surveillance to N'Djamena, the capital of Chad, and Bangui, the capital of Central African Republic, that if they do not find at least 500 trailers, Nigerian trailers, loaded with petroleum products and other commodities, when they come back, let them shoot me at the marketplace. And the then ADC, Major Jakolo, former emir of Gondu, now an elder statesman, wanted even to raid the television house when I was doing the interview. But Buhari stopped him. When they went back to Lagos, Buhari sent security men to Chad and N'Djamena to ascertain the veracity of my statement. And they found out that I was right. This was what led to the removal of the then brigade commander, Colonel Chris Ugokwe, late now. And he was dismissed from the military. Later on, when Babangida took over, he brought him back and made him the chairman of National Population Commission. You see, a lot of people don't understand human beings. For me, whatever I do, for example, they said I criticize Buhari. We are developing democracy. Even now, today, I had the military issued a statement that I am a protagonist of fake news. What has the military got to do with politics? Is that their province?
Well, we will get to that very shortly, but I want to understand, this was the beginning of your close relationship and association with the current president. You were later to become, in the Fourth Republic, both members of the All Progressives Party. And later it evolved into the ANPP. But you just said earlier that he was not the All People's Party, which became the All Nigeria People's Party. But you say that he was not the one who, even though he was considered an inspiration, he was not the one who formed the Congress for Progressive Change. So who formed the CPC?
We formed the CPC.
And you said it took you 6 months to convince him to join.
Under the guidance of Alhaji Sulaiya Hamma, one of the few most intelligent Nigerians that I have ever met. Alhaji, the former secretary to the government of all the Kano state and former political advisor to General Sani Abacha. That was our guiding star in the Buhari movement, called the TBO, the Buhari Organization.
The Buhari Organization.
TBO. And he was the director general of this Buhari movement and Buhari's all presidential campaigns in 2003, 2007, and 2009. I want to say that he has also been abandoned by General Buhari, that since Buhari became president, they never spoke, even on telephone. And he was never, as I am, never invited for even the inauguration of General Buhari.
Why would he resist joining the CPC for a period of 6 months, as you have just alleged?
We formed the party. Senator Rufai Hanga was the one that paid the 100,000 naira for the fee to INEC to register that political party. He had a divided opinion because some people close to him thought that he cannot form a new party, join a new party and make an impression. We insisted that we were the people who made it possible for him to be generating 12.5 million votes at elections from 2003 to 2011. And we could do it again, and we did it again.
Except in 2007, where he got roughly 6 million votes when he ran against Yaradua. Okay, so the CPC began, and it ultimately merged with the APC.
Yes.
I just want to get your perspective, because some people said that when the CPC was negotiating with the ACN, what was the ACN at the time, that the Tinubu bloc, there was supposed to be a Tinubu-Buhari joint ticket to govern Nigeria. Is this the case?
Well, I want to make one correction so that we put it in perspective and for history to record. In 2011, up to the night of the election on Friday, we had an understanding that the CPC and the ACN should present joint candidates. In fact, there was a committee of 3 people: Alhaji Sulaiya Hamman, Vice President Yemi Osimbajo, and myself, that were asked to develop the memorandum of understanding. And we did that and went to INEC for merger. INEC told us that you cannot merge according to the law within 6 months to the election. So we now came back and started negotiating on having an alliance and presenting a joint ticket. It was then that we suggested, I was made a one-man committee to produce a blueprint on how a vice presidential candidate should emerge. And me and Alhaji Silaya Haman suggested that Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo should run with the General Buhari. It was General Buhari who stood firm and rejected that idea. We were accused severally by people who really didn't know what had happened.
He rejected
the idea of
Professor
working
Yemi
with
Osinbajo?
Tinubu and with Osibanjo.
But there is, according to Segun Adeniyi's book, Against the Run of Play, when he articulated how Goodluck Jonathan lost the election, he said, this is his version of events, that Bola Tinubu wanted to be on the ticket with Muhammadu Buhari, and it was at Muhammadu Buhari's insistence that someone else be brought in so that there was a Muslim-Christian ticket. And he asked Tinubu to present 3 names, and Tinubu said he was only going to present 1 name, and that was how the name of Professor Oshibajo came in.
I summarized the issues. He is right to a certain extent. I was the single person that developed how the vice presidential candidate should emerge. And in focus was Tunde Bakari and Yemi Oshibanjo. It was when we visited Lagos and met with the Alfas in the whole Southwest. And they told the General Buhari to his face that they would not accept Tunde Bakari as vice presidential candidate because in Islam he has done what is called this one, you leave your religion. What do you call it? He committed apostasy, or what do you call it? Therefore,
some sort of sacrilege.
Yes. Therefore, they would not accept him as vice president. And they called him, they said Abu Bakr, and he answered to prove a point for General Buhari. It was even when he was nominated that this happened. And when I developed that memo, I said that what we need is a Christian with a large following. And then we thought that you can either get a Catholic, since it is supposed to be from Southwest, you can get a Catholic, you can get a Baptist, or you can get a Protestant, or a Redeemed person, because Redeemed has a large following. But if you go and pick any Pentecostal man who doesn't command respect of the other sects of Christianity, we will have a problem. I developed that memorandum.
Well, ultimately, it did work out, and what was considered up until 2015 an impossibility happened. A sitting president was ousted from office in the person of former President Goodluck Jonathan.
Yes.
And the APC was called upon to form the government. Now, in the early days...
was not called upon to form a government.
Well, they were mandated by
elected,
Nigerians. They were elected to form a government. That is straightened out. At this point, you were still very close to President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes.
And probably can give us an insight as to why within the first 6 months of the Buhari presidency, the president had not formed a cabinet, especially in the heat of all the political crises that were about to visit themselves upon this young government.
I think we have to place things in correct perspective. General Buhari is never a friend of politicians. He detested politics. He never believed in any politician. Left to him, he could have run that government without any minister. He had to be reminded times without number that it is a constitutional provision that he has to appoint ministers.
Did you have this discussion with the president? Did
When
you
the man
tell
said
him?
it publicly that he doesn't need to appoint ministers because they are noisemakers,
Yeah, but this is what he said to Nigerians. Did you have a private conversation?
forget about private. The
With the
issue is not
president.
private. The issue is Nigeria. Everything in politics should be in the public domain.
Okay. So at what point did your relationship begin to sour? Politically, at least.
No.
If not personal.
No. What happened was that when certain group of people came to say they want to work with him because they saw him as somebody that can generate 12.5 million votes. They didn't know how he was generating those votes. They never knew. But they gave their condition. Their condition is that he has to disengage from those that were managing his affairs. And when anybody says that, what comes to mind without mentioning name is Sule Ahama, the Director General of his campaign, and Buba Galadima, the Deputy Director General, and Operational Head, and the Secretary of all the campaigns for the 3 elections.
So you're saying
And he accepted.
you were targeted.
Yes, he accepted to get rid
exclusion.
of us.
Who were these people that approached
I
the
don't
president?
want to say, they know. He knows. And he was forced to make a statement publicly that he doesn't need my votes, he doesn't need the votes of my supporters or even my admirers. From there he has said,
Well, he knows, but we don't know.
well, let's leave it, he knows.
So how do we
He said publicly, it's on
how do we
record.
now assess and
It's on
address-
record. Go to the archives in 2015 of Daily Trust. When he emerged as candidate, he had to say that to convince them that he will not really work with us.
But this is Daily Trust's publication.
Of course,
But
it's there. I have a
you know
copy.
who these people are.
Of course I know.
who
Everybody
approached the
knows.
president.
I know.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things we
So,
cannot
so
acknowledge.
can you tell us that?
No.
Some of these people who approached the president and probably
Look at
ended
those
up-
who are close to him now, those who are abusing his parents before and are now his friends.
referring to
I don't know.
what you just said you did.
Well, I don't want, I'm not prepared to mention name, but you should know. Those who are abusing him and saying that he is unelectable, he is this, he is that, they are the people who went to bring some people from other parts of the country to get rid of us.
Okay, there are some people who believe that because you did not receive at least some of the patronage that you were hoping or expecting to receive under President Buhari presidency, this is the reason why
Are you a Christian,
you
Stanley?
did not.
Are you a
turn it-
Christian?
It's not important, really.
Oh, so this
at
one
this
is not
point.
important.
I
It's
am a
okay, let's-
Nigerian.
It's okay, let's close the chapter. Since it is not important for me to ask you whether you are a Christian
Not
or-
important to this conversation.
Why do you think so? Answer me, then I will tell you why it is important and relevant.
Perhaps explain to me why.
When
it
you
is so
tell me
relevant.
whether you are a Christian or not, once you tell me, you will now get the answer.
It's okay. Well, we will leave that for now because it's
No.
perhaps
We
not
can't
so,
leave that one.
It's not so.
I want to answer that question by using you.
It is not so
No,
relevant.
it is.
It is not so relevant.
It is for this purpose.
What I am trying to understand is.
Don't understand anything. Let's sort out this matter first.
I am not the guest in this conversation.
Why?
And
If I ask you
am
whether you are a
not the-
Christian-
I'm not the key player.
I say,
over
if
here.
I ask you whether you are a
are.
Christian or a Muslim,
You are, and
I am a Muslim.
I am seeking to
I
understand.
say I am a Muslim.
I'm seeking to understand what happened
You've
and
just
how
asked me,
your
a lot of
paths-
people have asked me this question. So I want to use some parameters of how people can understand. Because most Nigerians are either Muslims or they are Christians. And whichever faith
or
that
so
you
they
belong to,
profess.
yes, my reply will be relevant to that.
Explain this to me.
When you answer me, are you a Christian?
It's
Are you a
not really very relevant
Are you
to
a
our
Muslim?
conversation right now.
It is.
But let's
It
leave
is.
let's
It
leave
is.
that
No,
there.
no, no, no,
Well,
no.
what
We
has
can't
happened?
Move. We can't move until we sort
What
out
has
this
happened
issue.
has happened.
No,
And
no,
then
no, no, no,
you
no,
became,
no, 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 no,
you
Stanley,
became
no, Stanley. We are not moving 1 inch until we sort out the issue. I am protesting because I have not received the patronage.
You avoided my question.
I
by
didn't.
Explaining
I'm
to me
answering.
and asking me
No,
a
let's not
rhetorical
waste
question.
time, Stanley.
But let us leave that there because
No.
we have quite a bit of grounds to cover. You became a critic of the president,
I'm not a critic of the president.
or
I
some
look
of
at
his
the
policies.
president straight into his face and tell him what I consider to be the truth. It may not even be the truth, but for me, I'm convinced that what I do is right.
So this is coming from a point of conviction.
Of course.
All right.
Why not?
You set up, or you participated in setting up what is known as the RAPC, or the Reformed All Progressives Congress, and at the same time you seem to have formed an alliance with the People's Democratic Party to the point where you became a spokesperson for the presidential effort of Atiku Abubakar. How did that come about, this dramatic change from President Buhari, whom you had known for many years, and basically you have respected one another for so many years, to...
I have respected him. He never respected me.
This is your belief?
Yes.
Okay. So how did you get from that point to becoming a close ally to his major competitor in this election?
Very good. First, let me make a correction. I participated in the formation of the APC. I'm a stakeholder in the formation of the APC more than any Nigerian, because I am one of the 9 signatories that formed the APC. One of the 9. My signature was number 4. So I have more stake than General Buhari himself. He only joined. Me, I formed the party. And now, we saw that things were not going according to our covenant with the Nigerian people. And that we said we will run an open, transparent, and responsible government that will listen to the yearnings of Nigerians, and that we will address all the ills of the Nigerian state, including conducting a free and fair election, and of course, delivering on the dividends of democracy. Repair the economy, bring about security of lives and property, and of course provide employment to the teeming young men and women who have nobody to fall back onto. And this government has failed in all this ramification. And they will continue not to perform, even if they rig themselves into power as they have done in the next 4 years. So it was that issue that led me, because the elections that were conducted to bring about new leadership of the APC was what broke the camel's back. Because it was not done according to the rules of the party.
You're talking
And
about the process that
threw up people like Adams Oshomale
as the chairman of
yes,
the APC.
he is not. He's a Safa.
What was the problem with that process, according to you?
Oh, you don't know. Stanley.
What was your major bone of contention with that particular process?
He was not properly elected. And I don't want to go into details because I'm in court. So now, me and my colleagues sat down and say it's okay, since that is what they do, and since they have even refused to call us for meetings. Me, instruction came that I should never be called for a BOT, Board of Trustees meeting, of which I was a member. And I should never be called for a national caucus meeting of which I was constitutionally a member. So this exclusion is what brought about the formation of the RAPC, because we want to reform the party. And we are still in a position to reform that party, because when they lose election and they are thrown out by the court, they will all pick race and run to the PDP. We will now go back and take over the pieces and build the party.
This is your prediction?
Of course.
Okay, well, here is another prediction. You predicted shortly before the election that in the Northeast, which a lot of political watchers have said is the stronghold of President Muhammadu Buhari, that the PDP would win very easily. As a matter of fact, you said with 60% of the vote that Atiku Abubakar would be able to
50
take
to
that.
60%.
You said minimum of 60%.
50 to 60%.
According to interviews
Yes.
of yours that I've seen,
Yes.
you said a minimum
No.
of 60%.
Go back to it. And let's assume 60%. Yes.
Okay, 60%.
Yeah.
This is not what happened.
What happened?
What happened was we saw more of a landslide victory for President Muhammadu Buhari in these areas, particularly in some of the states you mentioned. You mentioned Kano, Kaduna, Sokoto.
You say northeast, and now you are going to Kano.
Northwest, I apologize. Northwest.
You said what?
In the Northwest. In states like
When
Kano,
I looked at you,
Kaduna.
Stanley, I thought this is a God-fearing Christian that would ever live to say the truth and live by the truth.
I am just asking the questions, and I just want to get to the truth. This is why I am asking you this. You had said, predicted a victory for the PDP in the Northwest,
Yes.
which is a stronghold. You also said, with the exception of, you said Borno State, where a lot of people
You
would
are mixing up.
probably be-
You are mixing up things.
No,
Stanley.
now in the
you either
Northeast.
speak on the northeast, or you speak on the northwest, or you pick one and then come back to the
Fair
other when I
enough.
answer.
Let us start with the Northwest. You had said, predicted an easy victory for President Buhari in Kano, in Kaduna,
No, not
and
for
as
Buhari.
well as in
No, not for
Sokoto.
Buhari. For Atiku.
For Atiku.
Thank you very much.
And this is not what happened.
What happened?
We saw a victory for Buhari in those areas. What is your comment on that? What is your response to that?
So you assume that Buhari won the election.
This is what INEC has said. These are the official results.
So is INEC,
So
is
I would
INEC,
like
is
to-
I- is
I would like
INEC
to get your
Is INEC
comment.
talking with finality?
I would like to get your
I
comment
say,
on
is
that.
INEC talking with finality?
Well, these are the results as they stand now, at the moment.
It's okay. Why don't you wait? This is your sword. When we go to court and prove to Nigerians that actually those were bogus votes, they were not humanly generated. Who will do that? Why are you in a hurry? Or is it that was the reason why you removed the Chief Justice and refused to sign the Electoral Act that will compel everybody to bring the materials for examination and forensic analysis?
So with the court disallowing any forensic study of this, what do you think are the chances of an outcome?
Stanley, you are talking to intelligent and experienced people. We have our ways of making a proof.
Sir, I was just speaking with you earlier. You said you were questioning how valid the outcome of the 2019 general elections were. What were some of the issues that you feel were problematic? So that, what specifically, what do you feel went wrong in the 2019 elections?
Are you aware of what has happened in Rivers,
Very much aware.
Kogi, Borno, Yobe, Zamfara, on the day of that election?
Very much aware of some of the controversies that happened.
Controversies.
Now,
you call them controversies?
What is, or some of the challenges that
Thank
have
you.
been happening. So how does this, do you believe that everything that went wrong would be substantial enough to have this outcome overturned?
It's okay. Let me say, without fear of being called whatever. For the presidential election, Borno State alone generated nearly 900,000 votes on that day. And it is on record that in the morning of Saturday, bombs started flying off in Maiduguri. And everybody ran helter-skelter. Everybody ran helter-skelter. And about out of 27 local governments of Borno, nearly 20 local governments are inside Maiduguri town. No election took place in the rest of those 19 local governments. They were in Maiduguri. And the bombs were flying in Maiduguri. Yet, they recorded over 50% of the registered voters. And when we looked through the card reader, only 152,000 were captured. So where do they get the remaining votes from? Over 600,000. Rivers, Asari Toro, Okrika, Degema, Boni, Andoni, and Buguma were all under military occupation as if there was a world war going on. Why? What has military got to do with the elections? After all, the Supreme Court of Nigeria has ruled in Muhammadu Buhari versus Obasanjo, Muhammadu Buhari versus Eradua, Muhammadu Buhari versus Goodluck Jonathan, that military had no business in conducting elections. And I want to add...
So you're saying he had benefited from Supreme Court judgments on this issue, and yet he is deploying the military, according to you, in a manner that
What
should
are the
not
rules
be,
of
or
engagement of the military in an internal security operation? You just don't wake up because you are the president of Nigeria and deploy the military. No. What you have to do is that you should allow the police to do their normal duties, and if it is beyond them, they now request for military backup. In the case of elections, even the police are not allowed to interfere. They are supposed to stay far away from all the polling units until the parties agree to invite them to settle any quarrel that is coming up at the polling booth. And the chairman of the National Electoral Commission is the only person that can make a request together with the political parties for the deployment of the military when the issue is beyond police. So why do you even start premeditated by use of the military as early as 5 a.m. and kill innocent Nigerians? And people call themselves Muslims, they call themselves Christians. They have no respect for human life or for human blood.
Basically, you do not believe that there is, or the threat level of actions of certain political thugs rises to the point where the military should be called upon to
when election has not even started, when did the thugs start operation?
Order.
I thought it's when the election started that this was started 5 a.m. What did the thugs, were they out? Even if there were thugs?
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about the collation of results? Because I know you had put out a video one time advising voters to go out there, to stay until their votes are counted, to make sure that once their votes are counted, the results are published, and you basically gave advice as to what voters are supposed to do and also what political party agents should do. So if all of these agents...
I assume still you've gone to school.
Mm,
Huh?
Well, that would be a fair assumption.
What was your field in
So,
school? What was your field in school?
Again, that is not.
No, what
but
is your field
let,
in
let me
school?
just focus on this because I just saw this video and you gave advice to some of those agents. So, for INEC to have declared results that were incorrect, wouldn't that somehow imply that even the agents of the opposition party were complicit in some way?
Well, I wish I could really probe you. If I could, you could have answered the questions yourself. But since you wouldn't answer, let me say, have you heard of somebody called Joseph Stalin of Soviet Union?
Yes, I have.
He was a great military commander, iron-fisted leader. You heard about him? He said,
I have also heard a saying that he made that those who cast votes decide nothing, those who count the votes decide everything.
thank you very
Is this
much.
what you're leaning on?
Thank you very much. So,
So what does that make about the, because I would like us to talk about the electoral reform.
That is
Act.
why I was asking our agents to be vigilant. Take the issue of Kano. Certain results were cancelled. Certain results were disallowed because it is overvoting. The lawyers and justices must decide at what point does a voter loses his right. When the votes are cancelled, has the voter have a second chance to vote? When there was an overvoting in a polling booth, whose fault is it? Does he have another chance to re-vote? These are issues that were deliberately coined because of connivance between the electoral body and the APC, because it has only happened in places where APC is clearly, PDP is clearly leading the APC. So you can now know that there is no fairness, there is no transparency, there is no justice in what they are doing. They are only doing cancelling results in order to have a second chance. And I was quoted severally in so many television appearances that look at what they are going to do, that in certain areas where we were strong, they will deploy the military to force the voter turnout down, and in areas where they are strong, they will leave everything open, including the card reader, so that they pad this thing. In Kano, over 500,000 of our votes was transferred to the APC, and we have record. And for them to now say the votes were inconclusive. What is inconclusive? Which part of the Electoral Act?
Well, INEC has just announced that on the 23rd of March.
Forget about what INEC said. We are discussing with you. Please forget about
the supplementary election will take place.
Is INEC not working in tandem with their sponsors?
What are your fears? What are your fears about this election that will be taking place in these local government? For example, I think in Kano it will be taking place mostly in Nasarawa local government area, and also 5 other states, Plateau, Adamawa, Sokoto.
Where we had
what are your biggest concerns?
My biggest concern is that there will be a connivance between the military, the APC, and INEC to rig the political parties away. But I want to say that let them not try that one in Kano.
Or what would happen?
What will happen? They know Kano very well. Kano is very near Daura, if you are far away. If you are born in Zaria, Kano is closer to Daura than Zaria. So Daura people know Kano people, what they can do politically.
All right, let's talk about a recent run-in that you had with our security operatives. You were accused of basically jumping the gun and declaring the candidate of the People's Democratic Party as winner of the elections, and you were accused of of inciting the public. What would be your response to these allegations made by the security operative?
Can you replay that situation so that I see? Please replay it.
Well, I am sure our producers will be working on that, and as soon as we get
So it
that,
means they have no evidence that I said so. Your producers have no evidence. You are just building figures.
no, but these are the allegations that you
who made the allegation?
basically had.
Who made the allegation?
You were
I say who made
inciting
the
or
allegation?
making
Stanley
inciting
making the
comments.
allegation or somebody else?
No, I'm not making the allegation.
made the
But
allegation?
what do you say to that?
No, who made? How can I answer to a hypothetical question? I want you to tell me so person had made an allegation.
Did you have?
I
any,
said no. I will not answer until you tell me who made the allegation.
Were
If
you-
you are making the allegation, I will answer you.
Were you actually apprehended by the security agents?
Let's go back to sort out that problem. You said they made an allegation that I jumped the gun.
It was
by
based on a
announcing
tweet.
figures. Which figures did I announce?
It was based on a tweet that
Can
you
you
had
show me
put
the
out.
tweet?
So can we have?
Can you show me the tweet?
Okay, you tell me what happened. Explain to me and explain to Nigerians
How can I
what
how
happened.
can I explain to Nigerians what I don't know, what I didn't do?
So your position is that you did not. You are denying that you had any run-in.
You know these APC people. They are all liars from top to bottom, from bottom to top. They are all liars.
But you're still a member of that political party.
I'm a member of the Reformed APC, which is in court with the APC.
Okay.
You know, you people listen to these liars. None of them has ever spoken the truth
Well,
in his
we
life.
have to listen to everybody. I'm here listening to you.
No, you are listening to me live. If anybody makes an accusation, you say, oh, Mr. Festus Keyamo, or Mr. Buhari, or Mr. Osibanjo has said so, or Mr. Mahamoud. Now I've just spoken to you about the military. They put up an advert to say that I am, what do they call it?
Inciting or saying things that are not
Fake.
supposed to be said.
What is that? I don't suppose. They are military people. They are not politicians. There is nothing under the sun. If I don't cross the red line that I cannot say, and if I do say anything against the military, they have no power to pick me. Who are they? They can take me to court, and I prove my case.
So you're
I wish-
confident in
Of
this.
course, I'm confident because I said
Okay.
what they are referring to, which you don't know, is that I said, they said, I said, they said, I said that the plot to foist Ganduje on Kano people is thickening, and that it was alleged. The mere fact that I used the word alleged has put them off. I'm not a lawyer, but they should consult their lawyers. And we are not in a military regime
So
where they
you
can
deliberately
court-martial me.
You deliberately put that word in there. The word alleged.
That is semantics of speech.
All
If you are
right.
not sure,
Let's talk about the electoral reform bill, which you have mentioned a couple of times in the course of our conversation. You have said that the president should have signed that bill. What are the key elements within that bill that you feel would have improved on the 2019 elections?
it could have addressed all these issues we are talking about. The military shouldn't have been brought out. They shouldn't have been, according to the Electoral Act of 2000 and
The latest amendment of the Electoral
latest
Act.
amendment. They shouldn't have been there, because all the loopholes in any election from 1999 to date was addressed by that Electoral Act. And do you know who participated? Civil society organizations, INEC, the office of the president represented by the Attorney General himself, and the National Assembly. So why is it that the president refused to sign that act?
Do you have any suspicions? As
Of
to
course now,
why?
that is why he removed the Chief Justice, whom he thought he could not bribe. and he knows the man.
Are you saying that President Muhammadu Buhari would bribe the
Or intimidate.
the suspended Chief Justice?
Of course. Or intimidate. He couldn't intimidate him because the man has a history. And you people don't know. In 2007, the Supreme Court was divided by half. And Justice Walter Onoge was one of the 3 justices that
who
gave
had
us
an alternative judgment.
Yes, despite the intimidation, harassment, and overtures of money and property, he didn't take. It was that
Interestingly-
one that now informed them that since they want to rig the election, and they know they are they have already planned to rig the election.
But interestingly, President Muhammadu Buhari was the beneficiary, or well, not beneficiary in the sense that he got judgment, but it was a minority judgment. But
It doesn't
was,
matter.
It was given on his or to his benefit.
Yes,
saying
without
that-
kobo.
Yes.
Without kobo.
So wouldn't that, are you saying that because the president is perceived as a man of integrity, are you putting that to question? That he wouldn't believe that...
So with what has happened now in this election, do you still believe that there is a man of integrity?
I would
a
like
man
to
of
know what you
questionable
believe.
character?
What I believe
No, I'm asking
is
you
not
what
really
has happened.
important. It's
With
not
what has
really-
happened.
I would like to know what you
Please.
believe.
Please.
Especially as somebody who
Please,
is who
Stanley,
knows
Stanley,
him
Stanley.
personally
Hold on now,
much
hold
more
on
than
now.
I do.
With what has happened in this election, there is no person of integrity or honesty or justice in this country anymore. Please. No such person with what has happened and what they are trying to do. To take away our victory in Bauchi, take away our victory in Adamawa, take away our victory in Plateau, take away our victory in Kano, take away our victory in Sokoto, and take away our victory in Benue, and take
But
away
you-
our victory
You
in
are saying
Rivers.
our victory. Are you...
We
you
have
said
won the election now.
You are not a member of the People's Democratic Party.
So
wh-
you,
when
so
you
you now
say-
forgot.
when you
when
say
it,
our
when it
victory-
suits you, I am not a member of the PDP.
No, I'm
when
just
it doesn't
asking.
suit you, I'm a member of this.
I'm just asking. You told me that you
I
are
said
you are a member of the
Don't we have a memorandum
Reformed
of understanding?
APC.
Of course. But we have a memorandum of understanding with the PDP to throw out these rogues in the APC. And we will do that.
Does the record or the allegations against Atiku Abubakar, do they not trouble you?
Which one?
Have you ever spoken with the PDP candidate and asked him frontally whether any of these allegations, the allegations concerning
before-
Congressman Jefferson, have you had a one-on-one with him and looked into his eyes and asked him if there was any truth to any of these allegations?
You see, if Atiku takes you to court, you will be in jail throughout your life. Look at it.
Okay.
Just listen. Just listen. Just listen.
Should
listen.
candidate Atiku Abubakar have been here, I would like to look at him and ask him that question. But you have supported him in this race for the presidency. And I just wanted to know if you've had a one-on-one
because I believe he's an honest
conversation.
man more than those that you think have integrity.
And this is
Let me
what
tell
I
you-
would like
let
to
me
know.
tell you- let me tell you something that
Do
has
these
happened.
allegations
Just
not trouble you?
Let me tell you something that happened. They arrested.
Very quickly, because we're running out
They
of time.
arrested Atiku's son-in-law, Babalele, and brought all, because he's the accountant to Atiku's financial transactions, and asked him to bring all the records from 2016 to 2019 of all their financial dealings. And the young man said, no, sir. The records I have is starting from 2014 to 2019. Shall I bring
So,
them?
can
And
I-
they said
can
no.
I- can I
Do you know why
simplify-
they said no? Don't,
Can I
don't worry
simplify?
now. Don't
Because
worry now.
we are very quickly approaching the end of our discussion. Can I simplify this question? Have you had an opportunity to speak with candidate Atiku Abubakar and ask him about any of these allegations and ask him if there is any truth to them?
I asked him.
And
there
what-
is
what
no
was
truth.
his response?
And there is no truth.
Absolutely
because
none.
Not absolutely no. And don't ever ask anybody about Atiku's financial dealings. Because if these people knew that Atiku has offended any Nigerian law, Even when he didn't offend, they go into his plane, check it, they go into his account, do this. But where he gave them money, they avoid to look at it because they are thieves.
Where he contributed to their campaigns. This is what
Gave
you're
them money
referring to.
even personally.
Okay, well, that would be a
Let
personal
me
matter,
challenge.
but
Let me challenge Magu. Let him go
Okay,
to Atiku's
you are satisfied about
finances
that.
from 2014,
so
not 2016.
basically, what my understanding of your response is, you're satisfied that
That he's an absolute
Atiku
honest
Abubakar
person.
does not
Because
have any
if he
issues.
has offended any law, he should be the first person that this government or the American government would pick. Since they have not done that,
All right.
it means
Now,
all these things.
before we close, let me ask you this. What next for you in Nigerian politics moving forward? How do you think we can get up from under some of these challenges that we're facing? Very quickly, if you can give me this answer in just about 1 minute.
We have to get young men like you join the fray. You queue us, you queue behind us, and we teach you and make sure that the vote of every Nigerian counts. Until the votes of Nigerians count, we will never get to the El Dorado, because some idiots, illiterates as governors and people in high places will continue to play with our intelligence. But once they know that there is a system, impeccable system, that will now make sure that the vote of every Nigerian counts, and that when they force any candidate on the people, he can be rejected, and that rejection will stand, they will mind their business. Thank you very much, Stanley.
Thank you very much. It has been quite an exciting and interesting time on this first edition of Politics and You. I've just spent the greater part of the last hour discussing with Buba Galadima, who's an engineer by training, but a politician by practice. And we have been delving deeper into the fallout of the 2019 elections, and also looking at his long political history and his involvement in developmental issues in Nigeria. Until we come your way again with another edition of this program, have a lovely evening, good night, and good luck.